Cool. So I'm here with Brendan Joyce, Chief Executive of Norfolk Wildlife Trust. Brendan, what are your fears for ash dieback and how it might affect our ancient woodlands? We're in Ashwellthorpe Ancient Wood at the moment.
Well, I'm leaning against a rather fine ash tree here, probably, I don't know, 100 to 200 years old somewhere there. I can't see any signs myself of the leaves, but there are some dead limbs on it, so it could well have the disease already. Will I be leaning against this tree next year? I don't know. It's a real worry, because I think the worst case scenario for us, if we're just looking at this woodland, is that we're asked to sort of fell all the ash trees in total, and as my colleague Steve has said, that that could be devastating for this woodland. Trying to look at the wider picture, obviously there's great concern about this spreading, so we're not talking about Ashwellthorpe, we're talking about woodlands throughout the whole of the country potentially. And I guess if there was a chance that it was contained to just a few sites, which was what was originally hoped for when it was sort of being really looked at last week, then some drastic action in order to save ash trees elsewhere would be called for. But there's so little known about this that one wonders actually if one worst case scenario is it could be too late anyway, so then chopping down all the ash trees in a woodland like this would be not only futile in terms of preventing the spread, but would also be highly destructive and unnecessary.
So your worst fear really would be a gung-ho response to this disease rather than the disease spreading?
Yeah, certainly. I think we feel that yes, there has to be some kind of action, but that the action taken, I believe, has to be based on science, not on politics. And there is a great danger, given the pressures that are coming upon Forestry Commission and government to, why haven't they done something about this? The reaction could be, look, we're now doing something about it, and it could be very drastic and without actually thinking it through all the way, because there's so much. I mean, this fungus, no one knew it existed until 2006. So, how studied is it? Do we know how it's got here? Do we know how it's spreading? And I think that before you kind of take action, I would say that we should be, if there's time, if people allow time, as much work going into the science side of it and trying to work out what is the best way to contain this disease, if it can be contained, before taking action. Then that isn't complacency. That's, to my mind, good common sense and thinking not just about the short term but about the long term as well.
How does it make you feel personally when you learnt that Ashwellthorpe and big beautiful trees like this one are actually falling victim to this disease, and it could radically alter, in the medium term at least, it could radically alter this woodland?
Mixed feelings. Initial reaction dreadful, but nature there has a way. Things happen to these sites all the time throughout history. You may go back in time and find that there was one time a fire swept through this woodland and destroyed everything. The real concern with regards to the ash tree is that if you take out all the trees and there are no seeds and saplings, that you could actually lose the ash tree from a woodland like this forever. And that would be a major change. I mean, it's called Ashwellthorpe Wood. The clue is in the name, and so I think that we're sort of devastated on a number of fronts, really, because some of these diseases you know that they come and go, and you hope that they will cause a bit of damage perhaps, but actually that's all part of sort of what happens in these places. But if you're talking about whole-scale devastation, that's a different thing altogether. And particularly it might anger us and make us feel very bad if we feel that it's as a result of human activity that this has happened, rather than just sort of what you might call natural causes. Could this have been foreseen? Perhaps. Could things have been done about it to prevent this from happening? Perhaps. We don't know. Others can speculate. But we're really concerned about that sort of gung-ho knee-jerk reaction, because it's not just the removal of the ash trees, but the effect that that removal could have on the woodland, just in terms of carrying out that work, and people perhaps suggesting, well, let's clear a whole area, really, to make sure that the fungus isn't, even if it's not affecting other trees, that it's not in the area. And that could be really devastating for what is essentially an ancient woodland, a site of special scientific interest, somewhere that the local community, grow up with, and somewhere that is very, very special from an ecological point of view.
And for everyone who visits, from a purely selfish point of view, it's a lovely place to visit, isn't it?
Well, this is a thing that we have with wildlife. I mean, I come from a school of thought that feels that sort of wildlife, in a sense, is part of the natural world just as we are, and has a sort of a right to exist. But we seem to live in a world where things, unless they're of a benefit to human beings and that we can put a value on them, that we think, well, it's not worth anything to us. But actually places like this are very valuable to people. As a place to come. I come here frequently on my own, and every time I come here, whether it's in the spring, summer, autumn or winter, it's always got something special about it. And I always go away from here feeling so much better in myself. I can't explain exactly why that is. It's the experience, I suppose. And I think that how can you put a value on that? It's priceless.